So this is this is actually going to help you guys also because you're doing a very similar activity, but you're doing it from the data side of the house, which is also identifying your outcome and predictors, or outcome and independent variables, or outcome and independent covariates, or whatever we want to call them, your X's and Y. So if you guys recall, I had you guys put out in breakout rooms in specific groups. We were looking at, and I'm going to share my screen with you. We were looking at this fellow right here, which was an update of the put it together example. And remember, we talked about what the chronic care model was. We already had identified some good covariates in our literature. And now we were doing the activity and we were familiarizing ourselves with our code book. And we were identifying variables for these factors, and we were looking at relationships. And I just added this to remind you about that XY diagram, right? And then we were also looking at, and I'm going to jump between the two. So hopefully that's okay for you guys. If everyone stays with me, I'll put them side by side for you. Let me put this breakout room over here too. See if that's visible. Then we were also looking at
Dr. Shafino, just a quick housekeeping item. Did anybody mention that the discussion for week 8, that the survey that you put wasn't working?
Yes, I'm gonna check on that, make sure it's live. I think I didn't publish it, I'm sorry about that.
No worries.
But yes, I will get on that. That's on my to-do list. That one, and I think there was something else, wasn't there? Or maybe I think it was just that. When I send you guys out to the breakout rooms, I'm gonna look at it right away. Okay, so the other one was, oh no, I just lost my train of thought. Oh, yes. So in looking and reviewing the module, we're going to also make sure that we can identify the target population, the sampling frame, or who are we taking the data from, right? So that's the target population that should help you. And then these are some of the other questions that I wanted you guys to be aware of, but not necessarily for an exam or anything like that. But it is important to think about because it also helps you when you're doing your own research. And this is actually discussed within the survey information. And I know your minds are on the quiz and not necessarily on the survey, but try to focus on this now because I'm here to answer your questions. And then you'll see that you also can ask questions in the discussion for me when you have those questions. So does everybody understand what I want you to do right now? I want you to go back to this part that we started. So you guys already understood. You already began familiarizing yourself with the BRFSS and the code book. And I want you to tell me who the population is, who's being sampled. And then I want you to find these variables so that you can begin to put together your own model like this, but with your variables. Does that make sense? Is everybody with me on this? Is everybody remembering it? Okay, I see a couple of thumbs up. And if you don't have your picture on, that's okay. If you can just give me a little picture thumb or something, I would really appreciate that before I throw you guys out into the, thank you, I appreciate it. Thank you so much. I'm gonna throw you guys out into the, I'm not gonna throw you, that sounds terrible, terribly violent. I'm going to put you in your breakout rooms and then I'll be joining you. You are in the same breakout rooms you were in last week. We do have some new people that were not able to be here for the breakout rooms last time. So I have put them in there with you guys. So they'll try to catch up with you as well if they were not here last week, okay? And I will see you shortly. I'm gonna check on the quiz and see you in a minute. So that should be working, hopefully. Is everybody getting an invite? Oh yeah, there we go. Good deal. Sorry. So was everybody able to find who the population was? Where was the data being collected from? The source of the data?
I think I just got into, oh no, I'm frozen. Oh,
I can
never
hear
mind.
you.
Oh, you can't, okay. Yeah, I just went to like the overview link.
Very good.
That was, yeah.
Everybody know what she's talking about? So that first link I gave you, that's usually every survey, every big national survey, right? So that's your source of data, is going to give you some information. And it's really important to review this, not just to get the code book and to pull the data, but also to understand the context. And that includes the sampling, who they sampled, how they sampled, because maybe it was a survey, but the other thing about surveys is how they were fielded, right? Because the survey can be done via Canvas online, right? But it can also be done over the phone, and it can also be done over a cell phone, which is what happens a lot with these old, you know, these national surveys that have been around a long time. So can anybody tell me who the target population was, or the population that answered the survey was? And it's in the slides too, but if you found it in the link in the website, that's even more helpful.
We found that the target population is ages 18 and over, those who had cell phones and they lived in like private residence or housing or college.
Excellent, excellent. And how was that? Where were these people? So this is a little bit unique for BRFSS, which I wanted to just point out. Can anybody say where?
It was like 47 states.
Very good. So it's by state. So the unique thing about BRFSS, which is something I love, but sometimes gets on my nerves, is that it is a state level survey, which means that I have to be really careful because I have to remember that there's going to be interstate and intrastate variation. That's different from national level surveys that do national sampling frames from like the NHIS, National Health Interview, and Haines, right? So those are national level surveys. These are these they sample by state, so they actually create barriers around each state. Does that make sense? So it makes it a little harder to compare across states unless you apply a sampling weight. Does that make sense, everybody, of what I'm talking about? Okay, very good. And then we also found out that there were either cell phone or telephone line, okay? Which means, and I added this to you guys, oh, you can't see this yet, sorry. I'm gonna share this. So the thing I added here in the table is, because they're selected each year, right? And if you should have had a chance to review Module 7 by now, these are then a series of yearly cross-sectional studies, right? So it's not a longitudinal cohort, it's think of it more like trends. So you can assess trends, but you can't really assess a longitudinal change because it may not necessarily always be the same population. And then they can be grouped across states. We already talked about that. And then remember the identical core questions. And then was everybody able to understand the modules and the core questions? So that's my first question. Where did your variables come from? So group 1, tell me about your outcome variable. Anybody from group 1, please? Group 1? Hello?
Who was group 1? I don't know what group number I was.
Oh, hold on, I have a picture. I took a picture of the groups because this is high tech. I have all the groups and then I took a picture of you guys. It was Cynthia, Judith, Kira, Thelma, and then whoever extra I added in that group. So who would that be?
Okay.
Judith, one.
So we're looking at the survey questionnaire, not the code book.
Okay, that's fine.
Oh, okay. And then what was your question? Sorry.
What was your outcome variable? I have 2 questions.
So we're looking at prevalence of diabetes.
So what was the variable? So what variable do I need to use to run this data?
chose age, didn't we?
No, I just didn't write it down because we were confused about the code book and the survey.
Okay, what was the confusion?
It was
Would
just a,
variable be diabetes 4 or diabetes 4?
How do I spell that?
It's diabete 4.
Okay. Group 2 and 3? Do you agree, disagree? Did you guys have the same outcome?
We had a different one. But yeah, we looked in the code book and we decided on variable name diabage. So DIABAGE3.
DIABE.
BAGE3. And the question was, how old were you when you were told you had diabetes?
Okay. And so that's another good one. But who was asked that?
We limited or we focused on our target of adults over the age of 18 and over.
Okay, so every single adult over 18 was asked this question. Very good. And then group 3? Tui, I don't even know if you were group 2 or 3. I just put you in group 2.
We were group 2, you're right.
Okay. Group 3? Group 3 is Jefferson, Jonathan, Luke, Natalie, and then anybody else that was in there.
What were we answering?
What was your outcome variable?
I think we had a few.
Yeah, we got a couple for diabetes.
I'll take one. Anyone?
Has about insulin 1, and that's the question is, are you now taking insulin? So the variable name is literally the word insulin with the number 1 after it.
Oh, so that's an interesting extrapolation. Okay, and why would you choose insulin 1? There's nothing wrong with it. It's just very interesting to see how everyone comes about it.
We were just listing all the variables related to diabetes, and that was one that the others hadn't already picked. I wish it was more intentional than that.
Controlled without insulin?
I'm sorry?
What if I have diabetes that is controlled without insulin, but I have diabetes?
What about it? Sorry, I don't know what you're asking.
Controlled without insulin, then would you really count it as a case? Because wouldn't that be more like a pre-diabetic?
No, I think you can. Actually, now you've stumped me because I was under the impression you could have insulin and no, I'm actually quite sure I'm right with you can control it without insulin, just diet, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Very rare. I mean, it's well, I don't even think that rare. But as long as you keep your blood sugar stable, I don't believe you. You know, Natalie, I don't know now. You got me because I am not a clinician, so I can't say that with certainty. But you got me. So assuming that you can have cases of diabetes that can be controlled without insulin, what is Luke's group in slight danger of?
Missing the people who have diabetes but aren't insulin dependent.
Yeah, so we have to be careful of that, right?
Dr. Shapino, why wouldn't the second variable, the how old were you when you were told that you had diabetes, why wouldn't that be an age variable? Why is that an outcome variable? I'm confused about that.
That's a good question. Well, you would have to recode it because that's actually a really good covariate in terms of how long a person has had their diagnosis. So that actually would be really interesting of how long they've been living with their chronic condition. But we could also extract diabetes, yes, no, from that. So if they said any answer, any age of being told they had diabetes, it would be yes, they have diabetes. If they said not applicable or refused to answer, then they don't have diabetes, right? So we would have to change that one. Now, if we knew what group 1's variable, what the question was there, we might actually know which one is the right answer to that one. Does that make sense?
So
That's
the
great.
first one was, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you're good. Who's
Um,
talking right now? I can't hear you very well.
It was ever been told you have diabetes.
So that's actually the one we were looking. I was like, I thought I found it. Ever been told you have diabetes, right? So none of you are actually wrong. Well, maybe G3 because they might be missing some folks. But that's only if we think that insulin dependence, if we're only looking at insulin dependent diabetics. But so none of these is actually wrong, right? At the end of the day, these are all actually correct. And you can get your outcome from these. So this is the important point here is for you to realize that there are so many different ways to get to the outcome. You just have to conceptualize it and think about, because who said that about the age, by the way? Who asked that about the age?
Me, Cynthia.
So Cynthia, you're absolutely right. And that's when you are at work, when you guys are in your clinics, or you have to think about these unintended opportunities, because unintended consequences can also lead you to benefits. Let's say that was the only variable that Cynthia had. Then she could have still made it work, right? That's the beauty of looking through these sort of dense, heavy code books, is that you get information and you make it work for you. Instead of, because sometimes the answer is just not there. It's not clean. It's kind of a mess. So being able to extract it, even the are you now taking insulin? I don't know what the values are. If it's yes, no, if it's multiple choice, I don't know what the values are. So group 3, you could have potentially extrapolated the outcome from there. If it said yes, no, or was previously, or I used to take it, right? Because that still tells you that this person at some point had to take insulin. And people don't take insulin just for the fun of it, right?
Or it could be that they're not going to ask that question unless somebody's indicated they're diabetic. In which case, if it's not null, then you could use it that way.
Excellent, excellent. And we didn't, I put a little note, we didn't talk about mapping because I didn't want to introduce anything new this week, just because there's so much for you guys to do with the quiz and everything. So I do apologize for that, but I actually don't apologize for that because I'm glad we're holding off, because mapping is such an important tool. Luke, I know you've already been exposed to mapping, but you just get more mapping. But everybody else hasn't had a chance to map, and it's such an incredibly important tool that I want to make sure that we give it the time it deserves. And that's, so what Luke is referring to are the skip patterns and the importance of understanding when there's bifurcation of information. Does that kind of make sense to everybody? Yeah? All right. You can think through the same things with age, geography, and then other variables of interest that were there for you guys. I know we've gone over, so I'm going to let us go. But I hope this is a helpful start. And please, please, please write down your questions in the discussion. I'm going to be monitoring it for the discussion for this module, not in the generic discussion, because I don't think anybody even looks at that. So, but this one I'm monitoring every night, or trying to. And then if you are really struggling, do not panic. Reach out to me. We'll set up a call. If there's several of you, we can do a group call. That helps me, because then, you know, I only have so many hours. But I am here, so don't hesitate to reach out, because I don't, like I said, I want you guys to get value, not more stress. So everything needs to, I want it to work for you. So just let me know how I can help, and that's pretty much all I have for today. Any other questions or parting thoughts?
Just to clarify, we don't have to like reply to any discussion posts this week since it's the survey? No,
you can if you see a question that you can easily reply to a colleague, help me out and do it. Yeah, or you know, encourage each other. But no, there's no, you get your point by answering the survey. You get your point, okay? That's not a problem. You don't even have to ask a question. There's no, okay? Hang in there. Trust yourself. You know this stuff. I know you know this stuff. So I'm excited to see you guys. So give yourself a little bit of encouragement and know that you can do this. I know you can do this. Okay? And show your work. You guys understand what I mean by show your work? You show your code and you show your output. Okay? All right. Good luck. Keep me posted. You can do this. Have a great rest of your week. Okay, guys?
Thank you, Dr. Ross.
Take care.
Dr. Shafino, can I ask you a quick question? Unrelated to this
Sure.
particular class.
Okay. Yeah.
For 797, do we need to actually do something for that?